Now, as everything starts to ramp up and more information comes out and what really happened with FISA, with the FBI agent Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, with the Clinton email investigation, with everything that we see going on, especially with the IG report, the corporate media is going to continually push more and more propaganda to try to redirect the public away from all of this into something else. And as we move forward with the summit with Trump and Putin and the troop withdrawal from Syria, we're going to see a lot more propaganda come out from the mainstream media. And we're already starting to see a lot of this, and a lot of people are questioning it, saying, is this real? Is this fake? What's going on here? Well, think back in time when the corporate media, and we were reporting on this, when they were out there reporting that we're going after the Islamic State. This was under the Obama presidency. And it was going to take years and years and years because they're just too tough. We just can't get them. And every time we looked at it, we saw that the Islamic State was expanding in Syria. And we reported that, the U.S. forces directed by Obama at the time, because he was picking up the targets, they were allowing the Islamic State to expand throughout Syria. Now, of course, at that time, the corporate media would have said that was fake news because we were fighting against the Islamic State. But again, that's not what was happening. The corporate media was giving us the fake news. Today, we understand that, yes, the deep state intelligence agencies, McCain and the rest, they were helping the Islamic State, helping all these paid mercenary forces. And the truth is starting to come out. Actually, you see a little bit of it in the corporate media, because how do you get around that? It's very difficult to do. But you can see that the truth has started to come out in these areas. Now, again, the corporate media is not on board in telling the full truth, because remember, they're still controlled by the deep state. And they're going to use propaganda to try to shift the narrative, especially with what's happening with Strzok and Page and their emails. And we know that there's a whole new tranche of emails that have come out, and congressional investigators, they received this trove of new communications between Strzok and Page and with the FBI. And there's a lot of information in there which shows that, yes, they're the ones who are responsible for all of this. Now, Nunes, he is expanding Spygate and the probe into all these different aspects of what has been going on. Nunes referred 15 people connected to the Russian investigation to testify in an open setting. Many of those on the list are tied directly to Hillary Clinton, Fusion GPS, and the infamous Steele dossier. Now, the names on the list include Sidney Blumenthal, Fusion GPS founder, Glenn Simpson, and Thomas Catan, Perkins Coie, attorney Mark Elias, and former FBI agent Feinstein, staffer Daniel Jones, who is spearheading a $50 million Soros-funded effort to continue the Trump-Russia investigation with Fusion GPS and Steele. Altogether, Nunes has referred 42 people to Gowdy and Gutlatt, highlighting that the individuals likely fall under the scope of their joint task force. Now, we understand that they're moving full steam ahead with the investigation, bringing all these different individuals in, questioning them, even subpoenaing a lot of these individuals. And I wanted to go back to Q's post 1666, where Q said Rod Rosenstein with the kill brackets around RR, deadline, we have the server. Now, on Friday, the FBI, Department of Justice, they were supposed to release this information to the House Judiciary Committee, and they were supposed to get all the documents. And we were supposed to see this late Friday. Well, what happened was the Justice Department and the FBI failed to meet deadlines for the delivery of specific documents about FBI activities prior to the official investigation into Russian meddling. The Department of Justice gave the committee some, but not all, probably all the little ones, all the different documents, they said, oh, there's nothing in it, but all the important ones they left out. So the outstanding documents is what the House Judiciary Committee, that's what they want. They want this information. So right now they are not in compliance. So what happens at this point? Well, we understand that either Trump can declassify the IG report, maybe the House will now push him to do this, but we need to understand that Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, he is the one who is keeping this information from the House. He doesn't want this turned over. He's kind of stuck here. And I don't think he's going to give everything over. And of course, he's going to use the excuse that, it's national security. We can't handle it's an ongoing investigation. We can't do this. And we know that the House wants this information. They're requesting it over and over. And now they're not in compliance. So they're going to take the next step. We need to refer to Q Post 1643, where Q says the following: we are waiting for a reporter to ask the ultimate question. What are they waiting for? They can end this at any time simply by asking POTUS, right? We may have to force this one, which means declassify the IG report. And I think this is where we are headed right now. We're at the point where Trump doesn't want to just do it on his own. He wants a reporter. He wants the House. He wants someone to say, hey, why don't you just declassify this? Where then Trump can say, you know something? Yeah, let's declassify this. This is what the deep state is most afraid of. And this is what they're trying to avoid. They're hoping that he never does this. Because once that comes out, and hopefully with everything that Q is saying, there's a lot in there that will bring out the truth. And I think this is why Q has said that people are going to be angry. People are going to reject. People are going to be pissed off. Because once this does happen, it's game over, according to Q. And hopefully with what's in that IG report, there's so much in there that it's going to spin people's heads that knew nothing of this. And this is why they're going to reject it in the beginning. And then they're going to become angry, pissed off. And this is why the deep state, I believe, they have riots set up ready to go to distract from everything that's going on. Now, the IRS came out and they said that hundreds of thousands of U.S. citizens may have to scrap their holiday plans. And this is coming from the IRS. They're saying they're going to enforce a law allowing authorities to revoke and deny passports to those owing over $51,000 in unpaid taxes. There's about 362,000 people. That number is climbing. May fall under the scope of the 2015 law. Now, this is the Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act, FAST Act. Within this, which became law in December 2015, is a little section that allows the State Department and the IRS to refuse to issue passports to those with seriously delinquent debts that are defined in an unpaid, legally enforceable federal tax liability of more than $51,000, including interest and penalties. Now, the IRS came out, and an IRS representative said that the authorities, they haven't gone that far as of yet. What they're doing right now is they're denying applications for passports for those people who are delinquent. Now, we have to understand that this law was passed in 2015, signed by Obama. And when this was signed, this was to keep everyone in the United States, to make sure that they are paying their debt, because that's really what taxes are. You're paying the debt because the central bank loans the currency to the government with interest attached. Who's going to pay for all this interest? Well, the American people. And they knew there was going to be a certain point in time where you needed to keep everyone in the country, make sure that no one escapes, and either have them pay the debt or put them in jail. And I think this is what they were planning on. Remember, We are now slaves to the central bank. You might not see it right now, but when you get into trouble or something happens, you definitely see it. But if you're working your everyday job, you were brought up to think that, oh, you just pay taxes. But really think about it. You are working hard every single day, and you have to give a portion back to the central bank. That's really what you're doing. This way they keep you working. They keep you stuck in this system. So either 10%, 20%, 30% of what you're doing goes to the master. That's really what is happening right now. Let's move on here to Q Post 1664. Q went on to say, North Korea is not advancing their weapon program. Coordinated mainstream media hysteria designed to instill fear, change narrative. It's all fake news. We've been seeing coming out of the corporate media, the mainstream media, that everything went south with the meeting of Pompeo and the North Korean official saying that, oh, look, we're on the edge of a war. This is not going well. This whole deal might fall apart. And they're really pushing this. And North Korea is sticking to the promise. They are going to denuclearize. They are dismantling their missile engine test site. They destroyed some of their sites already. And Pompeo is saying that once this is all done, we need to fully verify all of it, that they are denuclearized, and then we take the sanctions off. But what is happening here is the corporate media is spinning this to make it seem like the whole deal is falling apart. Now, coming out of North Korea's news agency, KCNA, North Korea, in this publication says they still trust President Trump. And this statement was released by the North Korean Foreign Ministry. They went on to say that we still value the trust we have for President Trump. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is reported to have written a letter for Trump, which was handed to Mike Pompeo. Because, again, the corporate media is not seeing everything that's happening behind the scenes. They're just taking whatever they see, spinning it, and making it seem like something is happening when it really isn't. Just like when the peace deal was happening behind closed doors, they were like, we're going to war. This is not going to work. The deal was already done. The summit was for the show, for the news agency, for the rest of the world. But the meat and potatoes of the deal was already made. So we see already that they're still pushing disinformation, and this is why Q says disinformation is real. This is why in Post 1664, it's a coordinated effort by the mainstream media to create hysteria designed to instill fear, change the narrative. And this is why Q is saying this is fake news, and this is all in caps. So we see that is falling apart. And think about it. Why all of a sudden would North Korea break the deal off? They already have other deals with South Korea, with China, with the U.S. Why would Kim Jong-un want to go back to where he was? He doesn't. He's dealing with all these different countries right now. There's going to be tourism coming into his country. Things are changing very, very rapidly. And guess what? The deep state doesn't want this to happen. This is why they're pushing propaganda. We see that the Syrian government and the rebels, they've reached a ceasefire deal. We see Syrian refugees, they've returned from Lebanon. More refugees are coming back into the country to all these different areas that have been liberated. We see the Syrian army, they've seized large cache of weapons on the Jordanian crossing. And a lot of these are armored vehicles, missiles, large quantity of ammunition, and a lot of these tank type of armored vehicles, they were handed to the rebels by the deep state. And once again, these vehicles are OT-64 Scott amphibious armored personnel carriers, which was made in Poland. And these were given to the rebels by the deep state. And what's happening here is that the Syrian army right now is controlling the whole entire southern portion of Syria. I mean, they're making huge gains by making deals, not by fighting, by making deals, and the moderate rebels, the paid mercenaries, they are just giving up. And they're just saying, here are our weapons. And it's happening all over the place. And this is why we can see there's going to come a point where Al-Tanf, the base there, the U.S. is just going to say, okay, it's time to leave. And I think this is coming very, very soon. The deep state is in a huge amount of trouble right now. I mean, think about what is happening at this point. They're going to be using a lot more propaganda to try to convince the American people that things aren't really happening the way they're happening. They're trying to distract everyone. It's disinformation. They're trying to divide people. They're trying to separate and say, oh no, look, we're going to war with North Korea once again. North Korea is going to break off the deal. So whatever Trump did with the summit, it just didn't work. They're trying to divide the American people. They're trying to put out disinformation. They're trying everything they possibly can to shut it all down. Leading up to the meeting with Trump and Putin, I'm sure, or during the meeting, I'm sure we're going to see a lot more disinformation, because this is what the mainstream media does with anonymous sources and everything else. And we can see at this point, they are stuck. This is all they have left, is to push emotion, to push fake stories, to push the idea that things aren't really happening the way they're happening. But they are. And we can see it in Syria. We can see it in Iraq. We can see it in North Korea. We can see that finally Putin and Trump are going to meet. The whole thing's falling apart for the deep state. The next phase is to release the IG report, declassify it, and shut it all down. And you know what? It's time to do this. It's time for the American people, the world, to learn the truth. It's time to declassify it all. And you know what? Yes, people are going to be angry. Yes, the mainstream media is going to push riots. Yes, people are going to reject it. But once again, the truth, you really can't knock it down. The truth will stand up to all of it. And it's time to put the truth out there. It's time to show everyone what has been really going on here. And I think with Q, with what Q has been saying, where this has to be forced, I think it's time for Trump to declassify it all and just say, here's the truth. You want the truth? You want to see how fake the mainstream media is? You want to see what these individuals have done to America? Well, here it is. Here is everything. And you know what? People, yes, they'll be angry. Yes, they'll reject. But they'll come around. They'll do research. They'll realize, whoa, wait a minute. We've been lied to? And maybe we can unite. Maybe we can come together and point the finger at someplace else where it needs to be pointed, the deep state.